From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, and welcome to Space Brains, the show where we watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya, it's episode 83 of Space Brains, and tonight we're talking about science fiction film Extinction. Came out in 2018. In this episode, we will reveal what we thought about the film, the ins and outs of narrative and film language, plus a nice deep dive into a specific piece of science the filmmakers are proposing. Extinction is directed by West Australian filmmaker Benyoung. It's based on a story by Spencer Cohen, who also wrote the screenplay alongside Brad Kane.
So, this is now your...
Warning.
Turn back now if you haven't seen this film, because I'm going to go into every little bit of it, and yeah, there'll be all sorts of spoilers.
Yes, and we also have a bit of behind-the-scenes rumours and gossip from Benyoung himself that I think we can probably pass on some little stories, I think, Surrey, because he was a special presenter at the Space Brains Science Fiction Film Festival.
He was. We'll cut out some of the swearing and some of the strange innuendos he was making about me and my relationship with my computer, but you know...
Yeah, that was odd.
That was strange,
Very
Ben.
personal, Ben. Yeah, but and obviously we can't speak for him, so maybe he might come on the show in the future to let us know what he thinks about what we thought about Extinction. So Extinction is basically about a father that has a reoccurring dream of losing his family. These nightmares suddenly turn into reality when the planet is invaded by a force bent on destruction. Whilst fighting for their lives, he comes to realise an unknown strength to actually keep them safe from harm.
Keep them safe? Maybe.
What was your number one takeaway from Extinction?
My number one takeaway is that because it has been my lifelong dream to be a Terminator.
Oh, yeah.
I figure from this film, I should probably just stab into myself and chop a big section out of my chest and pull the skin back. And then I'll either be in a science fiction film or some sort of Clive Barker film. Either way, no, I'm not going to be happy at all.
No, you're not at all with that realisation.
No, but what I have realised is that there's a very interesting myriad ways of representing robots under skin. So we see the replicants in Blade Runner, and for them, I don't think we saw anything particularly different.
No, we didn't.
Nothing at all. In fact, they make the point in Blade Runner that the replicants have become so advanced, along with this their version 6 or whatever it is, that they're very difficult to tell from humans. And in Terminator, he has the biological tissue over a mechanical endoskeleton or something. Yeah. And that's like a lovely bits of steel struts that tweak and twerk and do whatever. He's got special twerking mechanisms.
I was going to say, he's twerking, strutting, squeezing.
Yeah, he can do the whole lot. And then you've got, say, in Alien, where they've got this, just like they're full of milk.
Yeah,
they're great milk sacks.
And lots of wires and bubbling things.
God knows what that's all about, but it's very inventive. And in this one here, it sort of was this weird sort of plasma glowing... semi-transparent plastic stuff.
Again, something you'd probably get in an Apple store.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
looked like an Apple store on the inside.
That's where I got my replacement rib cage from as well.
Right. Well, it's where we all good rib cages come from. Apple.
The eye rib cage. Everyone knows it. Everyone loves it. The representation of robots in this one, yes, I thought was quite nice. Yeah, it avoided, sparks and, you get the red and the blue and the brown wires and stuff.
Yep.
And it basically said, hey, here's some sort of advanced technology that you can't even really figure out.
Yeah.
Like Terminator, you could sort of figure out. You could see it had, actuator thingos, and like it looked like it was made out of Lego Technic or something.
Yeah, I mean, it looked so, it's machine-like, isn't it? You know, Terminator. Terminator is those nuts and bolts that we have in machinery.
Yes, but this one here was going for a fair old advanced technology. Like, don't even bother trying to figure that one out. It's just cool.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, it was. It was. I liked that it was just a little bit revealed. You know, unlike Terminator, where you have bits and chunks and things sprayed apart. I liked that this was just a pretty small reveal of the insides.
Yes, it was. It was nice.
It's very subtle.
But though, tell me, Mark, is this hope, warning, or experiment?
I reckon this might cause a bit of debate, and it'd be good to know what Ben thinks. So, Ben, if you're listening, let us know if we're right or wrong. I don't think it's hope at all. I reckon you could crush that off the list.
Yeah.
But experiment or warning, it could be a 50-50, okay? So I'm open to clearly arguing about this, even though there's no one to argue to.
Okay, well, whichever you choose, I'll choose the opposite. Go.
I went experiment, all right, because basically I felt like it was a what if, okay? So the overall definition of experiment, that what if. And I thought the what if was based on, it is based on some clear, well, not rules, but problems in our current society, this film. So humans, we do have that inherent bias of other people and cultures. And, you could call that bias does lead to very negative behaviour like racism and sexism and discrimination, etc. The list goes on. I think also that we've seen in many other science fiction films, like Blade Runner, like Machine, like Terminator, that humans have a complete disregard for the fact that they are AI. Like, we're not seeing face-to-face. We're not seeing that we're on the same level as AI. Like, we're above you. And that clearly creates a problem for AI when AI can think for itself.
Yeah, when AI says, you created me, but that doesn't actually mean that you're above me.
Yeah, so quite often the humans are the debate in these films, and it's in this film again, but then it's been taken to that extreme. So that's why I thought it was experiment. So it's like, it's taken the human current sort of how we have discrimination and racism and stuff, and then putting that out to the extreme level, fast forwarding that.
Yeah, and I think if you took this as a movie more from the human side during the initial uprising, I would have called it a warning.
Yeah.
So this is almost like the backside of a warning. And we've mentioned this about a couple of films as being same but different. So this is like the reverse of two tropes, I suppose, or two storylines. One is AI. So in this case, we're taking the side of the AI being invaded by humans.
Yeah.
And humans trying to overthrow us.
Yes.
Overthrow them. No, I'm not AI. Yet. Yet. I saw Chappie.
Slowly.
And the other side of this one then is the artificial. So we've got alien invasion, and the other one is the AI revolution type thing, where Terminator would, and so forth. So you can imagine from the human's perspective 50 years prior to this film, where AI becomes aware, becomes sentient, and goes, well, hold on, you guys are actually treating us very poorly, and you're not going to change. So that would be a warning there about your creations turning against you.
Yeah, and I guess further to that, so when, if you think what happens in this film, they decided to annihilate them, right? And it failed. That's the humans. But then the way this story is structured, we come in at the time that it's, the AI are just living a life like we would as humans.
And this would be Skynet. After the Terminators, the Skynet would go, okay, now I've done the whole terminating.
Yeah, now
I'll make the farmers.
Yeah, the farmers and the...
I bet you've got detailed crop growing plans. Affirmative.
So
I am a farmer.
I think the film, and when we do also get to the soldiers saying, I thought you would be monsters and you're kids and adults and dads and cleaners and the soldier, the human soldier has that debate. And so whereas if it was a warning, it's more like Skynet. It's more them destroying us back. And even the AI in this, like Michael Peña's character Peter, the key sort of character, it's not like he just then turns around when he realizes he's AI and goes, right, then I am the Terminator, I can just destroy you all, right? He's questioning, yeah, well, why are we fighting? Like, why, maybe he's thinking can't we all just get along? That it's not necessarily turning to that negative. So I sort of saw it as an experiment.
Yeah, okay. Have you seen this film before?
No, this is the first viewing.
First time.
I've had the privilege of hearing Ben talk at our festival and also previously at Cinefest as part of that director's immersive I was in. Ben spoke at that pretty recently after the film had been released. So I kind of had a very personal recount of the story from Ben's point of view, which was very interesting. So I guess I was going in watching this not with open eyes of like not having any idea of really what the film was about. So that might have constructed the version. We also got at the festival, he played us a bit of a mocked up version, a different version, a director's cut of the start of the film. So, and we saw the trailer as well at the festival. So I had some context of the story, but I had not seen it before. How about yourself?
This is the second time. So I watched it recently when it came out.
Yeah.
So all those, 4 years ago now.
That's recent.
Well, if we just forget about COVID occurring, then it's actually really pretty recent. The story came out, the movie came out, and I watched it with my wife. We were entertained, and I liked the reveal of AI. I thought it was like a good sort of, there's a lot of possibility there, a lot to unpack. I think it's a very interesting take on the alien invasion story because, of course, I went into it blind. I didn't know anything about it at all when I watched it. And so from my perspective, it was an alien invasion, except I was sort of looking going, gee, they're remarkably human-looking, they're very remarkably humanoid aliens, but they could just be a budgetary thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen other horror and alien films where they are kind of human-looking and stuff.
So I had suspicions there about whether they were truly alien or if they were some sort of time travel or something along those lines. It didn't occur to me that they'd be actual humans from Mars who'd been kicked off Earth, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it is a cool thing. Like it's one of those films that you start questioning, and it'd be interesting. Anyone out there listening, what did your impressions were like? What did your brain start guessing? Like you just said, time travel. And I was thinking, is it gonna be that when he takes off the soldier's mask, it's going to be him?
Ooh, clones or
it's
something.
going to be they overtook each other, or like maybe not time travel but parallel universes, or remember way back when we saw the Beyond, that sort of some sort of space travel that's caused a blip and everything, and so that's what my brain was starting to think more.
I think so. So I watched that first time through. I oohed and ahed at the right moments, and I felt a bit of tension on the train escape at the end.
Was that a bit of a favourite scene then? Or what was the scene that was the favourite one?
My favourite scene, I think it was the cat and mouse in the apartment. Realising, in particular, when the invader, Miles, as it turns out his name was, Israel Brewson or Brawson or something funny, whatever his name is, I don't know. Israel. His first name was Israel, and his second name starts with a B.
He's
and
Miles
an R.
in the movie.
He's Miles in the movie. So when he wakes up having been knocked out and he sort of gets up and starts going, I remember that was very cool because he has his little fog out of his wrist, and I was going, "Ooh, what's this?" And it was actually like a holographic display. Which I thought was a good way of doing a holographic display because you sort of do need a medium to show the light up. Light doesn't just form holograms magically; it has to reflect off something. And providing their own little fogger to have their display is pretty cool.
Definitely.
And so that scene where he wakes up and you think, oh, well, they've gotten away. What's going on? But he's tracking his gun because it's a smart gun that won't shoot unless it's unlocked and so on. And so I thought that was quite clever. I thought, oh, that's smart. And that's the direction the military is heading as well. It wants to have because it makes sense if your guns can't be captured off you and used against you.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
helpful. I mean, just ask the Russians. They, it's very annoying then when you go and lose your, a military shipment of arms to supply your own troops, and now all of a sudden your farmers that you're walking past have got military weapons. That's dreadful.
It's not ideal. No.
Not ideal. So being able to track it, I thought that was quite good. That was an increase in tension, because up to then, it was tense in the building. Then they got out, and you sort of, I was sort of thinking, well, okay, so now they've got to the tunnels.
Now,
whatever. But then he wakes up and tracks them and starts going. Then, I really liked that. It carried me along.
Definitely.
What about some of this? I talked about the fogging tracker thing. Was some science fiction in there that was particularly attractive to you?
Well, I think, like you said, the type of android was really interesting. I think that was cool sci-fi. I also think that the way that the androids have wiped their memory is a really cool idea. It's also like, I guess maybe this isn't so much complete sci-fi, but it is the psychology of science, where if humans did attack and try to wipe out, like a race, which is what we've done to each other.
Why not, hey?
Right? Like, so we do it which we find out, in that sort of 3/4 of the way through the film. Why would the androids not rise up? Why would they not protest? I was just hearing earlier today, a man that had escaped Nazi Germany, once Hitler he heard Hitler speak, and then he was only a really young man, like 18 at the time. And it's like he joined a underground movement and then was arrested by the Nazis. He was trying to uprise against the Nazi ideal for Germany. And so then he ended up fleeing Germany, and ended up in Australia as a refugee. But it's like, why would the androids not rise up? So I know it's not quite sci-fi, but it's a much more interesting take on that AI premise. And I thought that was interesting. And I also thought, because we as humans uprise against the grain, like we protest over everything, don't we?
Drop of the hat.
Drop of the hat. There's a protest for something.
But hat dropping.
Yeah, that's for dropping your hat, And then there's someone else that says, no, you should be able to drop your hat. So why would the androids who we have actually designed, they would do a protest? Like, they just would. They naturally would. So I liked that kind of psychology science. And I think, you and I have been watching a lot of sci-fi for Space Brains. You can be like, the hologram. I liked the hologram too. I thought it was cool. And I thought it was a really great idea that it was a beacon. The biometrical way of using the gun was cool, because that was like District 9, the same thing. The aliens could fire their weapons, the humans couldn't. So just adding in that extra bit of the AI kind of going, no, we're going to protest. Like, we want to protest against this. This is not right. And then the humans going, stuff here.
Well, see, that's why Skynet.
Like, I like that. Yeah,
Skynet just launched nuclear weapons because it calculated ahead. It went, okay, I'll protest. The humans will respond by that. Then I'll have to fight against them. Then they'll escape and they'll hide. And at some point, they'll come back with some other stupid plan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just start mass manufacturing Terminators, I think. I'll cut straight to the chase and terminate humanity.
Yes. So, the algorithm spat that back. This was much more of a, because we see it through those memories, maybe a little bit too quickly. I would have probably liked to see a bit more of that pre-story, later in the film, where Peter, gets his memory back. It's... it would have been interesting, because we get enough of it, of course, to know what happened, but it would have been maybe a little bit more. There's a bit more substance that could have been developed there, I think, maybe.
Yeah, or relationship with his wife, for example.
I mean, it was enough, it was significantly enough as a story to follow it, but I wanted it probably a bit more there, I think. I would have liked more to know more about that.
Let's demand a 3-hour director's cut.
That's right. Go on, Ben. Do the 3-hour version. That was the sci-fi I liked. Is this actually a sci-fi? Sorry.
Is it a sci-fi? Because it is a retelling of, colonial situations to an extent, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's sort of if you look at some place like India, that was occupied by the British for a very long time until the local population kind of said, yeah, you're not actually benefiting us at all, and we're kind of providing you with all of the wealth, and we're not seeing the benefit of it. And they rose up and through a lot of difficulty and over a fair bit of time, but eventually they got their independence. Yeah. And so it's kind of a story of that, but it is sci-fi because it's taking that and then it's going back. Let's say the East India Company returned, returned, except it wasn't the same people that got pushed out. It was like their grandchildren who have turned up on stories of the monstrous Indians and their terrible variety of breads, which yum. But that's all I think of is the bread, and you couldn't really sort of tell that story in a sensible way. But here we have a story where we see the let's call it the colonized, removing the colonists and then the colonists returning. But it's told in a way that none of that makes 100% sense. There's not a 100% analogy because it is this science fiction element of it's not other humans. These are natives to the world. Like these artificial intelligences are indigenous to the Earth. Yep. They evolved here and grew here along, but then they've also displaced other natives of this Earth. And I'm assuming that it's the entire Earth. Like this, again, it's one of these problems with movies where they sort of have a global scale. It's like, you see one city happening. Did that happen did every city? Surely not every city has this exact same experience. But for the sake of story, we'll just say yes, they did.
Presume they did.
Presume they did. So you couldn't do that without the science fiction. If you took the science fiction elements out of this, basically what I'm saying is you'd kind of get this weird, scattered, nonsensical approach, where, why did they get pushed off and then come back again? Like, that doesn't make any sense because
not at all.
In any other history, that doesn't happen. They either never get rid of their colonists, like we're still here, or they do and become wholly independent. And then, okay, now you're independent. Congratulations.
Yes.
Time for your own civil wars.
We'll leave you in disrepair.
Yes, there you go.
There you go. Now we'll just economic. No, I'm going to go off to a tangent. So that what sci-fi stuff have you been up to? Or creative projects?
Creative projects. So I've been doing a lot of reading of business books, which I know it doesn't sound creative. But
it's not the business podcast. You haven't tuned in.
It ties in because I was reading various things about marketing. I did a business degree with marketing and so forth as well, and I was rereading these topics, and it was actually inspiring me again to get back to my books because I've got I've published these 3 out at the moment. Yep. But I've got sort of like another 4 sitting at various stages of editing and so forth. Yep. And it really inspired me to get back onto that and draw together the common elements to form, what is my author brand in my voice, in my writing, for example, and to experiment with where I can go with that. So it's a strange thing, and I've got there's one book I'm working on called Chaos Flux. That's a working title, so it probably won't be called that when it's released, but I like it. It's alternate universe reality.
Awesome.
So it is a science fiction in that it talks about parallel universes and a new, kind of an explanation for dark matter, but not really.
So if Netflix is listening, they might want to option it straight away
before it's even
published.
Yeah, so
get in touch with Spacebrains.
Pulling that together, and I'm using some of our techniques and what we talk about here and act structures to restructure it, because when I wrote the book, it got to a point, it ended early, right? But I hadn't finished telling the story.
Okay.
And so then I've gone back and looked at it going, well, hang on, because if we talk about a 3-act structure, and I'm looking at it going, my second act is too short. Yeah. Like there's not enough exploration of the world that gets revealed by the catalyst, basically. It just charges to the ending too quickly. The Act 3 comes in too quick, basically.
Yep.
So it ends about 20,000 words earlier than what it should do.
You need to put your protagonist through the ringer a bit more.
Yeah, there's a little bit more sort of... they're fun and games where they think they're doing well to find out actually they're just the tip of the iceberg that they've touched. Yeah, but and yourself then, I mean, we've had a bit of I've felt a bit of a come down off the film festival.
Yeah.
And there's sort of a lull, but...
For sure. And I mean, I was just going to say first up, if you're following along, we've got some great photos up on all our socials. I think we'll probably have more coming to the websites and stuff. So make sure you're following along. See if you can spot yourself, tag yourself. The videographer, David, has put together a great video montage that we'll be releasing or premiering pretty soon. So that's pretty exciting. Plus the recordings from the workshops and stuff will also be coming. So stay tuned, jump on the socials, see if you can see yourself in an image, tag yourself, that kind of stuff. Check out all the materials. For myself, it's been a bit of a recovery zone, probably for the last couple of weeks since the festival. And I'm just feeling now this week a bit of a clean slate, which is nice. So, I mean, I always had the pitch that in the second half of this year, I'd be making another short film. So I'm pretty sure I know what that will be. And so it is about working towards that. But I've also just this week started to get, some fresh ideas, I know that's what happens. Like you kind of, for me as a writer, if you're too busy, that creative muscle or that creative voice in my head, yes, I hear voices, just kind of vanishes, because you're too bogged down in the busyness of life, and so, or you're not giving it space. And then it's really funny, the minute that I declutter and I kind of wipe the board, then I suddenly hear that voice again.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying with my business studies.
Yeah.
I sort of started doing that to advance my IT career.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do when I'm not space braining.
Yeah.
And various other things. But in so doing, I couldn't help but instead of, I couldn't put because to get into these business books, I put aside all the creative stuff, all of that. I've put that book I was telling you about, I put that to the side, and I thought, I'm going to do this because the next couple of months, I've got to work on this career because I've got goals for this time next year and so on. But I couldn't think about my career. When I was reading it, every time I was reading about, this part of capturing value and this, doing, your target audience and leveraging it, I was thinking of, like you said, creative ideas about my book and about my works and about space brains and so I totally agree that you get rid of all of the stuff you think you're doing and all of a sudden you start hearing your calling.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's I've been doing, and my wife's done it too, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and really great sort of self-discovery for artists book. It's like a 12-step book, and that goes through. It's a very hands-on workbook. It's not a novel. It's a like a school textbook, really, but much more better if you're an artist and you're looking for sort of some driving force and some recovery from maybe things that have happened to you. It's a really great book, and it's a reminder that sometimes we do get a bit too busy and stuff, and just to kind of bring yourself back. And we're not self-help gurus here, but doing things like exercising and walking a dog and, going for a swim and riding your bike, like even just stuff like that can bring out the creative energy in a new way, like it just clears your brain, and so I think in life all humans get a bit too busy, and so you can't forget to like exercise the human body, because it just does make a difference to a lot of things, but definitely in terms of creativity, I think it gets that blood pumping in a good way. Yeah. So anyway, a goal for me is to write a very low budget feature film script. So I've written 3 feature scripts in the past, ones that I haven't really worried about budgets. Just, hey, this is a great idea. I want to prove to myself I can write a whole feature script. And I've gone through that process and I had a bit of success. Haven't sold any, haven't optioned any, but I've had a bit of success from them. and some good feedback, but it would be great to, now I'm thinking, hey, why don't I write one that is possibly, is able for me to, if I can talk properly, suddenly I might be having a stroke, sorry.
Smell bread.
I know, so my sentences going backwards. But yeah, to be able to write something that is just easily made.
Easily made.
Like a really low budget film. So whether that then I do actually make that or not, I don't know. But that's just as a bit of an intention.
Yeah, you just remind me, there's a Jake Gyllenhaal film. What is that called? I can't remember what that one's called. Something or other. Anyway, it was on Netflix, and my wife and I watched it because ever since seeing Donnie Darko, my wife's had a thing for Jakey.
I've got a thing for Jake, I think.
He's nice. I don't know about him personally. He's probably as, interesting and quirky and what have you as any other human being. But we watched this film, and speaking of low budget, it was filmed in COVID lockdown.
Right.
So it's a call center guy, like a 911 emergency call operator.
I've seen this on the sort of posters and stuff,
that's what he is, and he talks to these voices. There's two, he gets involved in a sort of a situation, basically, where he's talking to a woman and her husband, and there's a child has been in dispute, and it's basically, that's what it is. It's him in this call center talking there, and there's one guy next to him, and then he ends up getting pissed off that this guy keeps getting in his way because Jake's character has problems. He gets up and goes into a room by himself, and so for a good 3/4 of the film or 2/3 of the film, it's basically him in a room by himself talking on the phone.
Yeah.
With occasionally, someone, applying pressure, saying, he's getting in trouble at work type thing. So there's someone knocking on the windows telling him he's got to do whatever. But you don't notice it. It's quite well put together because you watch this for an hour and a half and then you realise that's just basically one guy in a room talking on a telephone.
There you go, yeah.
With a couple of voice actors.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of live action, outdoors at the very end to sort of finish off Act 3. But so now...
Yeah, and I mean,
it's a great low budget, that one.
So that's exactly right. And I've seen another one where, someone's stuck in a coffin. You know what I mean? That kind of idea. So the whole film is just one character in a coffin. I'm not saying necessarily do that idea, but I'm just, even the Cosmos guys, most of that film was inside that car.
Yeah. Which
we know afterwards is shot in one of the director's parents' garage that they set up over 40 nights, So really trying to control what you're doing in your budget, like 3 guys in a room. Even Saw, and it's not sci-fi, but even Saw, that whole idea of predominantly 90% of Saw is 2 guys in a, what would you call it, basement. Yeah. And that's all it is. So it is low budget all the way. So that's what I mean. As a bit of a, and I've heard a lot of writing teachers talk about this idea of restricting your writing. So rather than sort of going, there's spaceships and we're flying around the moon and, we're out in space and aliens are blowing up, the New York City skyline. It's not necessarily even, I've heard writing teachers talk about budget. It's more just restrict your writing. So what drama can you get out? Like you just said, put Jake in a room. How can he be in drama? What would you do? Oh, he's on the phone. Okay, he's on the phone, but are people going to really watch him on the phone for an hour and a half? Well, probably, because it's Jake Gyllenhaal. But, it's you still got to have some sort of drama, otherwise people would probably give up on it, And so how do you visually do that drama for an hour and a half?
At the film festival, and benyoung was talking, he is saying that when it comes to, say, the science and technology in a science fiction film, that's all really cool and it allows for story, but the film, if it's, and this is sort of almost a quote from him, paraphrasing, if it's based around a set or a location or a really cool action scene, I love that's not enough.
Yeah.
You've got to have this human drama, this touch point that people will relate to and will feel that struggle.
Yes.
And then you can say, well, how does that come about? And that can be your science fiction.
Yeah, I loved that quote from him. I love that idea of, there needs to be substance, and I think most of us, we realise that, a film doesn't actually necessarily have to have the $300 million Marvel budget. to be a good film. You know, plenty of films are low budget and they're great films. So I could go on about that all night, but I won't because we do want to get into some details about Extinction. So here we're going to jump into some parts of the film, like symbolism and narrative and camera and lighting and the actual key stages of the film. So we've mentioned benyoung is the director. He's a West Australian filmmaker, but he's been out there on the international film scene now. 3 of his feature films are kind of... Oh, no, the third one's about to come out, isn't it, with Billy Bob
Actually, he was working on it that morning at the film festival.
Yeah, there we go.
And then he had to jump in the car and get scooted away to finish off some stuff. So we'll look forward to that one. It's not a science fiction.
Not sci-fi, but yeah.
But it'll be good.
Yeah. And I mentioned before, Spencer Cohen came up with the story here and also wrote the screenplay with Brad Kane. Michaelpeña, who you would recognise, been in a whole bunch of movies. I think he's in the latest he's been in the whole Ant-Man film, so if you're a big Marvel person...
Yeah, he's in the Dusk Till Dawn TV series.
Yeah, goes back to those ones.
He's been in a lot of stuff. I've seen him all over the place.
Yeah, and I was just trying to think. There was another sci-fi film that we saw him in as well, and I've just blanked on it. Sorry. So if you know what that film is, double bonus brownie points. Let me know afterwards. Lizzycaplan is his wife, Alice. Mike Colter is David, his boss. Amelia Crouch is Hannah, Alice and Peter's daughter. Erica Tremblay as Lucy, Alice and Peter's other daughter. Israel
Broussard.
That's
there he is. His last name,
Miles. He's the human soldier. Lex Shrapnel as Ray, Samantha's husband. Emma Booth, Australian actor. Great, really great Aussie actor. Actually has done a lot of stuff with Ben. So they're kind of... I think he likes to have her in all of his stuff wherever he can.
Why not?
Why not? She's a great actor. And you recognise she's in that ABC TV show, which I think is on Netflix, called Glitch, which is a sci-fi show. It's a great one. And Lily Aspel plays Megan, Ray and Samantha's daughter. This was interestingly filmed in Serbia and big film studios there. I don't actually know what the budget is, but my presumption is probably about 15 mil.
Yeah.
But Ben could totally
correct
me.
15 to 20, it's that
sort of somewhere around that
size,
range.
Yeah.
Probably also if you look at the kind of the actors, as we know with Passengers, you spend $42 million on the 2 lead actors in that film. So, yeah, this one, you know, the actors probably not getting paid those kind of Chris Pratt sort of salaries. And box office, it did actually make it on IMDb. It does say it's about $1.5 million in pure box office, which is interesting because Ben told us that it was totally planned for a normal cinema release, and at the last minute, Universal just sold it to Netflix. So, which we know now is not that unusual. We know I Am Mother, for example, another West Australian filmmaker, Grant Spatore. But I think in that regard, the producers were really happy to sell it to Netflix. They just sold it back for the budget, so everyone was kind of pretty happy. This one from Ben sounded like it kind of maybe just sort of happened really quickly, but Netflix jumped on it and got it out there. If you kind of do a bit of a Google, you'll see that Netflix did a big promotion of Extinction in 2018 when it came out. They were talking about it as like their best science fiction film at the time. It was a Netflix exclusive film, and I think that's when they were really trying to, move into that zone of going beyond just smaller budget films at Netflix and really jump these ready-made, probably films that were going to do all right at the cinemas, maybe not be huge mega blockbusters, but probably do a substantial box office, and they just kind of grabbed them and paid them outright,
Yeah.
So, we do like to break the narrative down.
We do indeed, sir.
How do we do that, sorry?
We break it down into 3 acts.
Ooh, 3.
3 acts. It's, some people talk about 5 acts. Some talk about like a 7-step cycle or something. But it all still comes down to basically 3, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yes. And we break it down into some of the primary beats or the important plot points that drive the narrative. Yep. You'll get that from such script teachers and storytellers as Campbell Schneider McKee and Field. I nearly said McPhee.
It would be really good. You could have 4 astronauts, couldn't you? And that would be their names.
Yeah, Campbell, Schneider, McKee and Field.
There you go.
So much so now I'm not entirely sure what their first names are.
Actually, that would be astronauts back in the 1960s, but like it wouldn't work these days.
Yeah.
You'd have to have much more international flavour of names.
Yeah, well, Schneider... That's Schneider, isn't it? That's Germany. That's from the... Yeah. Anyway, so they talk about these 3 acts, and it's broken into the various beats. We have a beginning, a middle, and end, and beginning is Act 1. Mark, how about you tell us what Act 1 is?
Well, Act 1 is the introduction to the whole film. The idea is to really hook an audience in and go, ooh, this seems like an interesting story. These are interesting people. I want to know more. Aaron Sorkin, who's an Academy Award-winning screenplay writer, has said, you know, for movies, you do have the luxury of about 10 to 15 minutes to really get people. Whereas TV, you've got about 30 seconds. So for him, he's very much saying that, you know, if you go out for the night, you take your beautiful wife to the movies, you buy popcorn. Maybe if the movie is really terrible, at about 12 to 15 minutes, you might walk out. So that's what a film has. Like, it has the luxury of that first kind of 10 to 15 minutes. What happens in that beginning is, hey, here's our main character. This is what he does. This is his problems. You know, this is his life. And it's setting us up, and that's literally like a setup to the story, to then hit a moment where the world of the character turns upside down. And it needs to be what they can call an inciting incident or a catalyst, and it needs to be massive. You know, it's someone that's worked in their job for 30 years and they walk in and the company's closing down and they don't know now what to do with their life. It's realising that aliens are invading. It's realising that your wife is cheating on you. You know, like, it's got to be in a moment in time. It can't just be them tripping over a step, you know, and stubbing their toe.
Or,
you know?
Missing the train doors closed just before they get there.
On the London Tube when there's another train 2 minutes later. You know, like, it's got to be significant. It's got to be world-changing. And quite often then they need to... And this is where really story should be about the character driving the story. So things can happen to the character, but it's what the character chooses to do. And that's what's really important is, even if aliens are going to land, think about it. What would you do? And that's the question for the protagonist. So aliens are going to land. What would you do? Surrey?
I would break into 2
Okay,
pieces.
there you go.
No,
Right,
Act 2.
Yeah.
I would choose that one because otherwise the story ends.
That's right. But the answer I was going for was actually, like, you know, you might bundle up your family into your car and flee to the hills. Or you might go, no, let's pray to our God. Or you might go, you know what, stuff it, let's party to the end of the world and drink and eat anything that I've never had before, you know? So that's the character. That's what a character gets to decide. It shouldn't be the aliens that get to decide. It's the character. And that's where we, in this first act, have those decisions to be made. If they make a decision to break into 2, I don't know what the hell that means.
Correct.
That takes us into...
2. Break into 2, Act 2.
Act 2.
Break into Act 2 it is.
No, but I was thinking your answer's break into 2, like, are you a babushka doll or
It's
something?
mitosis. I'm a single-cell creature. I'm the largest single-cell amoeba you're going to come across.
There we go.
Yeah, story Act 2 is the fun and games. Well, it's in 2 parts. Fun and games. So this is where we've had the exciting moment that has upended the world. And now we're going to find all of the things that you would expect to have happen at this.
Yeah.
The aliens have invaded, and so you're going to have alien encounters, running and hiding, fighting, maybe examination, maybe communication, and conferences with them.
Might
or something.
be cool weapons.
It might be cool weapons, explosions, because this is when all of that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I know Mark often says that this is where a lot of the trailer comes from.
Yeah.
And that's true, because if you show bits of this, you're not really giving away the twists. Like if you grab an M. Night Shyamalan film and you show a bit of Act 2, you've not given away his secret. That is hiding there. And there's fun and games. Sometimes it's not that fun in horror movies, for example.
No.
But it leads up to a midpoint, which is a pretty much in the middle of the film. Yep. That's why it's called a midpoint, by the way. It is usually like a tipping point where the story's trajectory changes. So if everything is all fun and games leading up to that point, something serious consequence happens, usually from the fun and games.
Yeah.
Or something of the catalyst has realised now that all the stuff you're doing, it's not that as good as you think it might be.
Yeah.
You get this downward trajectory often. I mean, sometimes it's the reverse in that everything's really crap. If you watch one of these old spaghetti westerns or Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns, they're very commonly that way, that the character is dragged through the dirt, they're beaten, they have the crap kicked out of them. It's the worst time of their life, all the way up to the midpoint where something goes toing, and then they start getting their revenge.
Yeah, that's right.
And then from that point there, it's sweet, sweet revenge.
Yeah.
But most films, it's the other way around. It goes downhill. They find consequences for what they did in the first part, catching up to them. They find that they didn't know everything they thought they did. They find that their hubris and arrogance is getting the better of them. And we get things like the bad guys closing in, Dark Night of the Soul, where you've hit rock bottom. And you have to do that because then you need this inspiration. Often it's called the whiff of death, which could be a literal death. And there's plenty of films and stories where there is actually someone dies, and that then inspires the character to take that extra step. But it may not be that death. Sometimes it's the death of a dream. So they wanted to be a world-class gold medal winning athlete. They've tested positive for doping.
Yeah.
They cannot be a world-class gold medal athlete because they're going to be banned.
Yep.
So, what are they going to do? And this is why we have a third act, because if you stop there, it's not unresolved.
Yeah.
You go, well, so what? How are you going to deal with this? And they'll make that decision. Yeah. And they'll go, you know what? I won't be a world-class athlete, but I will coach the next one.
Yes.
Who will become a boxer extraordinary and defeat robot or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And that leads us to Act 3.
It does. And Act 3 is rounding off the story, the climax, the finale, the showdown, the absolute, all the dynamite in the world has been bundled into a cave and set alight, So this is where everything that the journey has been about for that character, all those decisions have to come to an end. If there has been any B stories or C stories or any problems going on, this is where it all needs to come out and reveal itself. Films that do have a twist, which Extinction does have a bit of a twist to it, the third act, it has to be revealed by then, otherwise it's too late. The M. Night Shyamalan films,
Shyamalan-a-ding-dang.
They always have a twist somewhere in that third act. Like, he doesn't just leave them out, there's no point to that. So, and quite often, actually, his films are really good examples of what happens here, is that the main characters come up with a plan, they come up with that final idea, and then during this third act, it's revealed that, oh no, hang on, there's a secret, there's a twist. The dynamite that you thought was going to blow up aliens doesn't actually work on them, so the whole journey feels like it's a waste of time, and they've got to think and reflect, and maybe in a real last-ditch effort realise that, oh, it's not dynamite, it's cat food, and they can throw cat food at the aliens and that's what kills them. So, there's got to be some sort of, ultimate test for the main character. And quite often that's done up high. There's a little writing tip for you. So, skyscrapers, tops of mountains, ledges of cliffs, that Spider-Man movie, it's on top of a plane. It's got to be up somewhere high, and so why? Because that's just sort of elevates the danger. And anyway, hopefully the protagonist wins. This doesn't necessarily mean that they survive, but they do actually have overcome what the whole Catalyst journey was about. And then that kind of ends with a nice happily ever after, in the fairy tales. And again, it might not be a happily ever after, but it's a resolution of the story.
Yeah.
And where to from here? That ends on that final image, which quite often can connect back right to the start. So that's our narrative structure we like to focus on. We've sort of taken some chunky bits from all sorts of people and like to apply it. You'll find that most narrative films follow that pretty well, and maybe just deviate in some very interesting ways to keep an audience intrigued in what is about to happen next. So it's a recipe for the structure of the narrative. It doesn't have to be the recipe for the actual film.
No. And we've seen that in a number of the films we've covered. They've done, they've played with chronology, and they've stretched, segments out over multiple minutes of periods. Like some catalysts are 3-second bingo bongos, and some are actually kind of drawn as a couple of events over the course of about 5 minutes.
They are. Okay, so let's get stuck into Extinction. One thing I'll say overall with Extinction is really crisply, cleanly shot. We have a lot of really stationary, moving shots, so not jerky point of view stuff, like really smooth as butter. Smooth as cutting butter.
Smooth as a butter's bottom.
Something like that. Yeah, something. I don't know. Smooth as rubbing butter all over your bottom, something like that. Whatever.
With a baby.
There's a baby in there somewhere.
Yes.
In there. Anyway.
Don't throw a baby out with your bath bottom.
Okay. All right. I think we'll leave that one there.
Yes.
But anyway, it's very smooth. It's very clean cutting. And in fact, the whole thing is we are showing a world that is very clean and sophisticated, and that, that version of an Apple store, but in a whole city. But the shots are really nice, really cleanly cut. The other thing that whether Ben did it or the editor chose to do this, there's some real slowdown, like slow motion stuff happening in the opening sequences. But we basically have this man, michaelpeña, Peter, going about his day. There's a bit of voiceover about him telling, you do this in your life, your wife, your children, and he's kind of setting up, and we get these lovely little shots of his family and the city, but he's not looking too happy. You sort of getting the sense straight away that he's not too happy. And very quickly, we then get this kind of nighttime scene of flash from the sky, and then suddenly that flash opens up and all these people see it, and they're just sort of laser shot down, aren't they?
Gunned down a bit.
Gunned down really quickly, and there's screaming and crying, and he wakes up. And this is something that we learn in the setup in the first sort of 10 minutes, that he has these, because this happens again to him at work.
And that's the opening image there, isn't it? Is that we're given a very quick introduction to the fact that he's got his life is quite small and contained, but then he's got these terrible nightmares that are breaking it up.
Yeah,
and it's breaking up his life as well.
Obviously, as the audience, we're like, "Ooh, okay, so he knows something about an alien invasion. Did it happen in the past? Is it going to happen? Like, what's going on here?" So it's a good questioning of the world. No one believes him, so this is all part of the setup as well. No one really believes him.
It's part of those, give your character problems.
Yeah,
and one of them is he's got a family that's kind of a bit sick of his shit.
Yeah, they're sick of these delusions. They kind of call him. He needs a bit of help. He arranges to take the kids to the pier, have family time.
In the family day.
And, of course, then when he's at work, he kind of snoozes and has another nightmare.
Snoozes.
And a little snooze on the job.
He has a fit and a blackout. Yeah. But
Well, come on. And when he does that, he's missed the family time. So it's the strained relationship.
Hey, I tell you what, though, this opening image, having watched this now the second time round and keeping my eyes out, because Ben was mentioning a couple of extra features he wanted to chuck in there, but didn't. But I still noticed that when he comes out and talks to his youngest daughter, Lucy, and she's got that little bear that says "monkey see, monkey do," which is kind of an allusion to the whole AI mimicking humans. But also there's no breakfast food.
Yeah, right.
Like it's a breakfast scene that he comes down ready to go off to work, and the usual cliche, I suppose, particularly in American films, is the come down, the arms are full of the jacket and the briefcase, and so the wife pops a bit of toast in his mouth, and he goes and he puts the briefcase down and bites one bite of toast, puts that down, picks up his coffee and has a slurp, and I've got to go, I'll see you, and off he rushes. No, his wife is folding laundry, and his daughter's just sitting happily under a table playing.
Yes.
And you don't really notice it the first time you watch it.
Yeah, I didn't notice it.
But watching it now, I'm like, there's no cups and plates. No one has had breakfast. There's no crockery out, nothing.
I wonder in the later, now that you're saying that, because again, my first viewing, so I'm not maybe picking up on that. So when they have that party scene, is there food?
No. This is another thing, because I was paying attention, because one of the features Ben said he didn't get to put in there that he wanted to was have in the kitchen cooking pots and little teacups and things being used as pot plants holders, which humans do. We do that too as well. Like, my mother-in-law has got boots and wheelbarrows and all manner of containers as pot plants.
Yeah.
So you kind of, on your first watching it, you're going to go, okay, they're being a bit eclectic.
Yeah.
But on second watching, you realise that, this house they've taken over, this apartment they've taken over, they've got these things in it that they don't use.
Yes.
But it's cunning, that party they have later on.
Yeah, I didn't realise
no one's holding a drink.
Yep.
There's people playing games. It's almost like a utopian view of a party.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, no one's just getting drunk or using food as a cover or anything like that.
Yeah.
They're genuinely enjoying each other's company. Which
Who
is
does that without alcohol and food? And...
horrifying.
So the other thing, did you notice that then? So he's some sort of, I don't know, electrical engineer
Technician
or
of some sort, yeah.
Yeah, some sort of technician. He works in this factory. But did you notice that when he does kind of daze off a bit, that then, and the boss comes over, like he says that the current has been split and that's caused a malfunction, right? And then it was just an accident, and he sort of starts fixing it up. That's the exact same sort of terminology that then Miles uses to repair his wife.
Oh,
like, we have to split the current. And like you will be the energy source, and we'll split the current. I don't know exact words, but when Miles said that later in the film, I'm like, that's that foreground that quite often happens. So I think you're right. Like the monkey see, monkey do. That's kind of a bit of a nod to the AI as a copying the humans. This is what humans did, right? Happy families. But I think also that current is a bit of foregrounding, which is more sort of like, the fact that there's been a current split here is something that's going to happen later. It's a little sort of treasure for you. So I noticed that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And he just works at the factory.
Yeah.
Don't know what they're making.
No.
We don't see anything getting constructed.
So the catalyst is an interesting one here. So he's got the strain relationship. He's missing time. He's blanking out, like you said. He's not just having a snooze on the job. He's actually having like a blackout, basically. To me, the catalyst, is that he goes. So he reluctantly decides to go to this clinic to see a psychologist, and while he's waiting, this other patient explains to him that he's having these visions and they're trying to hide it, like a bit of a conspiracy. He's a bit more nutty than Peter.
Yeah.
But he explains the way he says it is it's a very similar vision, and we know it, right? Like he sort of says the same vision. Yeah. And then the nurse comes down, or the doctor comes down to take him away, and he goes away like quietly, don't tell anyone. And so Peter then decides that this isn't right for me. Like if he's seeing the same thing I'm seeing, I don't think I'm crazy. Like, there's something to this. So he leaves the psych. So that's the catalyst to me, because he's then realised it's the first time that he's had affirmation that something is different with these visions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, for me, maybe just a little bit earlier, the lights in the sky, and he buys a telescope.
Yeah.
And then he goes, I'm going to go see a guy at the clinic.
Okay.
Because he was thinking about going to the clinic. And I was sort of putting that clinic side in the debate there. Is he going to go ahead with this? Is he, not going to do it? And he goes to the clinic and he hears that guy, and that's where he makes a decision to go into Act 2, in fact, where he goes, no, I'm not. Maybe I'm not crazy. This is something that's important that's going to protect us.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was my thoughts.
Yep.
But I can't remember when I was watching this the first time, because the problem is, having already seen this film, I'm looking at it with a different angle. Because often when you first watch a film, when I'm watching a film the first time, and for Spacebrains in particular, I know my wife by doing it for every film we watch, and I have to just be quiet.
That's the catalyst.
Yeah, it's like I look for that moment where I get a little
Yeah.
You go, that's what this is going to be about, which is the problem I had with Batman versus Superman, because I was an hour and a half in and was still wondering what this film was going to be
Still
about.
waiting for a catalyst.
I think I had to have seen the earlier Superman film, and also be in the whole DC universe understanding.
Yes.
But in this film here, the second time watching it, I was waiting to see what part of the catalyst it would be the catalyst. And I thought just after he had the blackout and he goes out and he sees the lights and he's like, did anyone else see that? Did anyone else see that? And no one's sort of paying much attention to him. I kind of felt, and I said it could be in, hindsight being a benefit. I thought, that's where you're going, oh, okay, his dreams are real. But maybe still just wondering until that guy talks. So maybe anyone else out there who's watched this for the first time, what was that moment? Was it seeing the lights where you went, oh, it's actually going to be about an invasion?
Yeah.
Or was it the moment where the guy at the clinic said, gave him enough information to say that this is probably not just, there's something bigger here?
Well, so my argument is that, again, this is the thing, like the catalyst is he's decided to go to the psych and he's having these visions. Everyone, like his wife and the boss, etc., because even in that scene with the boss is like, will you see this person? You know? And his wife's like literally, go, I've had enough of the bullshit, and his kids are, deserting him really, like not wanting to be with him.
Oh, yeah, that's the other one.
So to me, the catalyst is, or the inside incident is the fact that, okay, I'll go see this psych, I'm going to try to do it to heal and help my family, which I think would be pretty normal, like, that would be a decision. So then the fact that he decides not to, once he gets this affirmation, and I think, again, as the audience, it's always interesting in the audience journey, because we should always be having the ride with the protagonist. Like, we're seeing it through the protagonist. We're not seeing it through his wife's point of view. We're not seeing it through the kid's point of view. We can empathise with them having the crazy dad. But we know as the audience, like, is there aliens? Is he crazy? You know what I mean? And so then him not going to see the psych, it then opens up that debate of, did I do the right thing or did I not do the right thing? Like, the wife's going to be, because you and I are married, wife's going to be angry now. Is the boss not going to trust me? The kids, how can I actually convince other people that, this other guy's also seen it, like there's got to be more to it,
Yeah.
So to me, that's where it was. And, if you look at the scenes after that as well, it is the party, and the party's like, the neighbour comes up, look, my wife told me to come over and talk to you, like, so there's more debate at the party, that was that the right decision? Because he is very distant at the party, isn't he? He's very vacant. He's not really present.
He's saying that keeps checking out his telescope, which he got in trouble for buying.
Yeah. I did love that the telescope came from an antique store.
An antique store, but
nice little nod, wasn't it?
It looks like a real one. The other thing, when you mentioned his daughters, I remember that Hannah, her game seems to be being the elevator operator.
Yeah.
And she acts like, she's just like the computer voice in an elevator. And I, again, watching that back going,
that's true.
That's actually quite funny that she's, what floor? Ding. And he tries to talk to her and says, you can't talk to the elevator while it's operating. So which of course it just seems like it's done as a way of saying that she's pissed off at him.
Yeah. Like
kind of distancing herself. But knowing that she is in fact a robot makes you think, that's kind of funny that she's being the AI for the elevator.
Now, it's a nice little nod, and that's really clever of Ben and co to. What that means is you're getting a different enjoyment the second viewing, and that's really good. That there's more to it than just one viewing, which is always what you want for a feature. There's also something here that it repeats, a motive, but in the camera. So with Peter and his kind of visions, we get a moment where the camera does a bit of a, I think it's an aerial, what you'd call an aerial. It's not a pan, it's not a tilt, it's the camera sort of rotates, and it's a bit disorientating. And why it's a motive is that Ben has decided to put in the film about 3 times. Like, I noticed it 3 times. And it happens, he uses it each time in scenes where there is a bit of doubt in the mental capacity or the thinking of Peter. So, again, here as an audience, we don't know if he's crazy or if the alien invasion is real. So that you've got to kind of give that visual impression of craziness in a way, So again, go back. You want to see a film where it's all about the mind. Christopher Nolan's Memento and memory. He cleverly distorts the audience in that film. So go check that one out. That's a real mind bender.
It's It's a technique that's used in a number of other films, not that exactly, but the idea of having a normal view on a scene tilt slightly or rotate, or the camera sort of corkscrews.
Yes, yeah.
And those of you who are watching Stranger Things, they have literally done that with the upside down. Like the whole thing is called the upside down, and when there's something going to be changing, the camera tends to rotate and corkscrew around. Yeah. But a lot of films do that where if you're looking at a scene and the camera goes onto a tilt, it's a hint to say that
world's a bit tilted.
Think about something a little bit alternate here. Maybe a person's not thinking straight, or maybe things that are happening aren't quite as real as what you think they are.
There's the oblique angle, so just literally a stationary angle on the side. So Nolan again used that in The Dark Knight for the Joker. Like every single shot of the Joker is slightly tilted, so he's never straight. Whereas Batman is straight.
Yeah.
And then it's extreme, so you call that an oblique angle. But then, which is came from Russian cinema, but. He just likes to tilt it. But this is more of a motion of it, like you're saying, the same as the Stranger Things thing. So, notice that. I noticed that a couple of times throughout the film. I'll pick up on that. So what do you think was then the break into 2? He's had this debate. What do you think the break into actual 2 is?
Oh, well, I mean, the break into 2, that's got to be the lights in the sky. Because he's talking with his neighbour, and he's like, I guess... but I really kind of maybe think this is something important or not. And then flash, and he goes, "Oh, are you seeing that?"
And the neighbour says,
And there's a pause.
Yeah.
Because as the audience, you're like going, is he seeing this now? Because previously he saw the lights in the sky, and you don't know because no one really responded to him. And why would they? If I walked along and someone said, "Oh, did you see it? Did you see it?" I'm like, whatever. Move on. I'm not feeling like playing games. But he says, yes, of course I did. I had to be crazy. And then his wife comes out. I'd have to be crazy not to see that. His wife comes out and likewise looks at the sky.
Yeah.
And that's massive, that's fun and games. You're entering straight into fun and games now. You've got teaser, the promise that there was something weird, something's, your memories aren't, your dreams aren't crazy. They might be crazy, but they're not necessarily because of this. So that would be it. And from that point there, we go into the fun and games, which is very much, as you said, that's where the most shooting happens, the most running and chasing. And we have the alien spaceships coming down, a drone coming across, and there's an explosion to sort of herald, here's what you've been waiting for. It's called Extinction, and the cover poster sort of has what it appears like some sort of an alien maybe invading. So now here's an explosion. Now you're going to get you're going to get what you're looking for.
Yeah, so we have this huge destruction scene of the city, these drones blowing up buildings, wiping out, entire, levels of building.
Yeah, just shooting into them.
Not quite the extremity of Independence Day, but definitely, buildings being blown apart and people screaming and all this. And so it's done on a city-wide scale, but very then localized to Peter's building. And so Peter and his family and then girls, they sort of like huddle, and they, there's broken glass and all that kind of stuff. And they realize that then the girls are actually missing. So they go looking for them, and they can't find them. And then Peter and the neighbor, Peter actually says, "Oh, I know where they might be. It's the elevator." And so they run out into the the apartment hallway and stuff, and they rip open the elevator, and at the same time they start hearing now shooting, so like more localized shooting. And so this is happening, and they're hearing screaming and all that kind of stuff, and they notice that like down below them when they open up the elevator, that there is shooting and firing going on. So there's obviously soldiers or aliens in the building now.
And all the lighting has changed here, as you'd expect. But prior to Act 2, I know it was all, as you said, far more clinical, clean lines, a slightly grey cast to it. And now we've got more reds and yellows, orangey colours, and flashing lights, and hard, odd-angled streaks of light coming through doorways. And
I think actually...
And the camera moves a lot more too on this one.
But what I was going to actually say is something we didn't touch on is probably the the way that the attack happens is actually sort of similar to his vision. So we're sort of seeing some similarities to it. So again, as an audience now, we're like, oh, yeah, he wasn't crazy, but how did he know this was going to happen, you know? So it kind of keeps that questioning going. So they save the girls, they're in the elevator, they kind of bring them back. There's the neighbours split off, the soldiers then close in, and they get separated or something, don't they?
Yeah, the neighbours go off one way, and then
that's right, yeah.
they spot one of the aliens coming. So Peter and co, they jump back in the house and barricade themselves in, but Lucy runs off and goes under the table where she was. Obviously, she goes there when she's upset with her little monkey toy. Monkey see Herman, I think he's called.
He is.
Yes.
Yeah. And these aliens, they have a human shape to them, but they're the way they've done it's pretty clever in that they've kind of got these bubble things on their suits. The main head suit is really enlarged, and it's got a lot of coils and metal wires and these weird bubble bits, doesn't it? It's human-like shape, but you don't see enough of. You don't really know what's inside it.
No, it doesn't look like human technology.
No.
The gun does.
Yeah.
But the suit with its weird blisters on it and things. No.
Yeah. Anyway, and so this one alien starts bashing in their barricade, and so Peter and his wife run away from the barricade and kind of hide in the bedroom. Because it literally kind of rips through the wall, doesn't it, the soldier?
Lucy's not there.
But Lucy's not there, and so with that, the soldier's inside, and he kind of walks over to where Lucy is hiding under the table and bends down. He easily had the opportunity just to annihilate her, but he doesn't. And in fact, he kind of goes to reach for her, doesn't he? In maybe a bit
curious.
In a curious way, yeah. And with that, Peter comes out and just kind of beats him to a pulp.
Yeah, gives him a bit of a beating and cracks his glass on his helmet a bit.
Yeah, and steals his gun.
Which is another one of those features, but by having that cracked glass, you can identify him.
Yeah.
Because you've always got to have the identifier. Finn in whichever the Star Wars movie was, can't remember, they're all the same now. Just kidding, I love Star Wars, of course. Or I don't, depending on what you like. Anyway, Finn gets that smear of blood, like he gets blood on his thing and he wipes it, but he's the only stormtrooper with that smear of blood.
That's right.
And then the commanding officer, that general woman, is the only stormtrooper with the silver armour.
Yes.
And so now you've got identifiers.
Yes, you do. And so, anyway, Peter takes the gun and takes off, but he can't fire the gun. And they kind of get in the hallway, and with that, there's more aliens, and they fire upon them, and he, realising that it's biometric or whatever, biomechanical gun, and but he tinkers with it, because we know he likes to tinker with stuff. He's fixed stuff before as electrical engineer or whatever the hell he is, and he manages to get it alive and just wipes out those two aliens.
Shoots a bunch of guys.
Yeah. They escape to the roof.
Which, again, it's kind of part of the fun and games, though, isn't it?
It is. He's the one. He can get this gun working, so it's not kind of.
And you want to see him fight a bit.
Yeah.
You can't just. I have to admit, it's one of the most frustrating things in movies where people are just ineffectual. It's the A-team effect. They're shooting their guns all over the place, but no one's getting hit, no one's getting hurt. You're sort of in this Act 2 here. If you're going to have a bit of a fight, you've got to have the hero, strut their stuff a bit. Even if it's just a few lucky shots, whatever, but you've got to show that there is a chance, there is hope.
Yeah. And they escape to the roof. That's where they find the other neighbours. They know that they can't go back down the sort of fire escape or whatever, because the soldiers are kind of coming up to the roof. They notice that across the way there's a whole bunch of people on another rooftop.
Yeah, I love this actually, because they're all huddled up there like, oh, that's just like us.
Yeah.
And then of course they get wiped out by a thing. Yeah. They go, oh,
we can't stay up here.
And that's like it's great visual storytelling there, isn't it? It's like saying, oh, okay, they're up there, they can hide up here, and then the story says, we're going to quickly just remove you. That idea that they're safe, this is not where they're going to stop.
Yeah.
See? Boom. And then, of course, a spaceship starts coming to them, so they all run and they've got to hide.
Yeah.
And, they avoid detection, but they realise they can't stay there.
Yes. Actually, these spaceships, now that I think about it, they're a little bit like those ships in the Matrix, aren't they?
Yeah, they do look a bit that way with this sort of...
a bit similar.
They've got, like these weird tentacle claw thingos that tap on the roof top a bit. It's a good way of making them look a little bit alien. So they're clearly a different design aesthetic.
Yes.
There's been a deviation in the 50 years. Like, we don't know it's been the 50 years, but there's clearly been the humans left. And maybe all these androids were developed by Apple.
Yeah.
And so they're used to that, cleaner, sleeker sort of clean lines, sleek things, minimalist interfaces.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That is always an interesting take on it, is the cleanliness, white, clean lines like we're in a hospital versus then, a more crude mechanical machine. Even Chappie was much more of a machine, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, machine with heart. So this is all the cat and mouse. They escape the rooftop by going down a shaky window cleaner thing, which always breaks. I don't know who gets down on those things. But they break back into the apartment. The alien, does he wake up this bit?
No. We lose the friends.
We do.
Yeah, because the wife, she doesn't quite get out of the contraption in time, so she's dangling, and then the husband goes up and grabs it and starts trying to haul her in, and then they get shot, basically.
Yeah. And this is a good example of what we were saying with fun and games, that it's not all, like you say, like a horror film has fun and games, but it's not necessarily happy fun. And it's the same here, like the neighbours get annihilated, but it is the fun and games of the story.
Yeah, this is what you want to see, and it increases the tension, it increases the action, and it plays on that one note. It just sort of says, alien invasion. Now, here you're going to have all these scenes which are...
near-death experiences.
Yeah, what you're doing in this invasion.
And they have to be realistic like this. Someone has to die, because otherwise then, like you just said, if everyone's firing guns and no one gets shot, well, where is the actual danger?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we do lose the neighbours, and then they escape out of the apartment. They decide to go back down.
Yeah, I mean, quite fortunately, the wife is working on a new design for drainage tunnels.
Yeah.
So she is quite intimately aware of all these tunnels, which is a nice way of introducing the... I'm not sure why they need to increase drainage, but I guess go over to New South Wales at the moment and ask them about increasing drainage. They'll tell you why. Current affairs. You learn something new every day. So they do. They go down, and she points out the tunnels, and they can get to the factory because, David, in the memory dream of Peter, says, "Okay, they've gone now, but we'll meet back at the factory."
Yeah,
and that's kind of triggered him going, "Oh, yeah, the factory." And he's like, "Actually, it's basically a fortress in there. Like it's really well constructed." Yeah.
So if we're going to be safe somewhere, we'll be at the factory. So let's go. And so they escape out of the building. We see the damaged, beaten up soldier with, now we know, as you said, the marked, shattered face.
Yes.
He sort of sits up and, he does that cool effect of pushing the side button and of his suit, and a bit of fog comes out and he can see a hologram of his gun. And it shows him exactly, like we see a hologram of the building, and where is the gun in the building.
That's like Find My Mac, isn't it? It's like, hey, I had to pay for that. Out of my own money. I need it back.
But it's a cool idea, and of course he doesn't look happy, even though you can't see his face. That's what I love about those people in suits.
And it's interesting here, having a look back at it now, is you can feel a midpoint coming. And you see this with a lot of these sort of films, like where... maybe a zombie movie or something where they're trying to get away, and you get that midpoint where they reach something that appears to be a safe haven.
Yeah.
Where there's a moment there where it's a little bit calmer.
Yep.
And and you can tell this is coming. We're going to get to the factory, and so you're thinking, there's going to be...
There's a plan.
There's going to be a midpoint there where there's... something's going to change. They're either going to go on the offensive, or the safety is not what they thought it would be, or something.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting And this is why my wife hates me talking during movies, because I get excited and go, oh, this is going to have to be that.
Yeah.
Okay, be quiet.
So they do have this plan, the tunnels, they escape the building. We know that they're being chased. When they actually exit the building, there's a... is there a drone thing?
Well, yeah, there's one of the people, one of the AIs, as we know from having watched the film, is sort of dragged out by soldiers and brutally killed.
That's right, yeah.
And yeah, everyone, Peter's family's going, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
And then so like a resistance fighters suddenly run in with all guns.
Yeah.
And we're thinking, did they all steal guns off the aliens? And well, no, because they don't look like the aliens' guns. They've got their own guns, which means this is some sort of planned thing.
Yeah.
And so they come in and shoot all the soldiers, but then the drone comes and
annihilates.
And this is one of those raising the stakes a bit there, because you go, oh, okay, they're saved. There's like no, they just got killed. A whole lot of them. So keep going, buddy.
Keep running.
You're not safe yet.
Yeah. And so, this is a really good example to me of a midpoint, getting out of the fake, the fun and games is that, Peter, they get to this bypass thing and they go down the tunnel. But as they're getting to that tunnel, they've got to get the kids down. There's a drone explosion, like fires on them. And just as it fires on them, they just get through it. You think, oh, okay, that was real close. And they're inside the tunnel, and then they realise that Alice...
Lucky none of us got hurt.
Yeah, Alice is actually hurt. And there's a good realisation scene there. And so this is, I think, one of those examples of a midpoint that you'd call is a false victory. So... it's sort of like a double negative in a way. Or no, not double negative. It's like we got to the tunnels, but one of us is injured.
Yeah.
So it's
may not make it.
Like someone's going to die here, And I think even Peter says, no, she'll make it. It's like we've got to go on.
Was an interesting lack of blood on all these bodies.
There was.
There's little smears here and there.
Yeah.
But considering she's, copped it right there in the kidney, you'd be expecting that to be weeping.
Yeah.
But it just sort of looked like it's like a bit red and there's a bit of blood around it.
Yeah. And I mean, even, it was interesting because I guess now that I think about it, she doesn't react very extreme for maybe what the pain should be. They kind of stare at each other and she's got this great big U sort of shape in her stomach. And, I mean, then after that, it cuts to, he's like, oh, she's going to make it, And then it seems like, oh, she's fading a bit quickly.
Yeah.
And people do have shock. We know that. People can go into shock. They can lose a limb and they're not screaming, So everyone reacts a bit differently. So it's kind of hidden in that emotional storytelling.
Yeah. And we get the fight then that the chasing alien catches up. And I think this is kind of the real full midpoint downward, this is where that it's tipped. Because, she got injured, but they're still going to the factory. But no, the alien chasing them catches up and they have that little fight.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the revelation. The helmet comes off.
Yeah.
And it's just this young guy.
Yeah.
And Peter's like, why are you doing this? Who are you? What's going on? And as the audience, you're sort of going, oh, okay, this is actually quite a bit weirder than I thought.
So they're not aliens, they're humans.
Yeah,
but you guys, Peter's a human. So what is actually happening here? Yeah.
Why are they doing this?
And that's why I said earlier, like my intuition was thinking, is it going to be when the mask comes off, it's Peter? That's what I kind of thought might be the reveal. If it's like a story like that, like it's two different time zones or two different dimensions or something, and these humans have come here because their planet is dead or... something like that, So here I'm like, oh, okay, they're not aliens, they are humans. What does that actually mean?
Yeah.
So Peter forces sort of by gunpoint the soldier to help carry Alice all the way to the factory. And when they get there, his old boss and there's kind of all these other guys that are like, they're like a mercenary group, really, aren't they? Like they've got guns like those guys we saw in the street. But they're not soldiers, and they kind of attack this human, the human guy, the soldier, and say, "Oh, look, we've got to evacuate, so we're going to get through and close the doors, and there's an old train that will get us out of the city."
Yeah,
and it's our best option.
And it's clear at this point that David knows what's going on.
Yeah, like he's more organised and these other people are organised, but he's like, he doesn't want to explain anything. We don't have time. And this, to me, this is then pretty much an all is lost moment, is that they medic. And again, even watching this the first time through, I just thought it was weird technology. This medic zaps.
It looks like a taser.
Yeah, it looks like a taser, and her body does shake, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just examining her." And
it's a diagnostic.
Yeah, it's a diagnostic, and she does it. It's quite violent. Again, I was a bit like, "Oh, it's just weird technology," And then you see the device the taser that he's tasered her with. Like, you see there's a little screen on it, and it shows her kind of rib cage or, the side of her stomach.
There's a red dot.
There's a big red dot there, and he's like, "Oh, no, it can't save that," And, but it sort of quickly diminished the fact of the way it did diagnose the patient. You thought, well, if it diagnoses someone that quickly, maybe it's worth a little electric shock.
Well, on the other hand, maybe she would have survived if you hadn't electrocuted the crap out of her.
Maybe. But to me, it's an all is lost because he literally says, "Oh, no, she's dead."
The interesting thing here is because you don't know what they are, and she gets zapped, and just like Peter, we're confused.
Yeah, we're confused.
We were going, what the hell? This is... Because David and his mob clearly know what's going on. Like they've got a grasp on this handle on the situation, a grasp of the bull's horns. Or, jeez, those metaphors.
Those metaphors are not getting us tonight.
Whereas we're in the dark, like Peter, and we're going, what the hell is going on here? Like, that's technology that we wouldn't expect to be used.
Yeah.
Let alone like. If it had just been like a tricorder, like Star Trek thing, just beep, 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 beep. Yeah. Oh, yes, okay. Yeah. You totally accept that. And you go, oh, yeah. Just some little scan. I mean, we've even already got sort of small hand scanners which do detect certain things.
Yeah.
But this violent zapping, and she's jerking around and not liking it. You're just like Peter. You're going, what the hell is this situation? Are they the aliens? Are they possessed? I don't know, God knows what. But it's pretty good.
Yeah, it was a cool idea, I reckon, to keep us in the dark, But it isn't all is lost because she's basically resigned to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
to me, that's a death. So it's a perfect example of the who or what has died. Well, there's no way to save your wife. And actually, you say in a zombie film, this is a perfect example. Like in a zombie film, what happens? Someone gets bit.
Yeah.
And so they're going to turn to a zombie, but maybe it's not going to happen today. Like today even depends on the rules of the movie. Zombie films
and I think what actually dies here is his vision of normality. Because at the start, his family were trying to get him to be normal.
Yeah.
And he goes to the clinic thinking, okay, well, maybe the clinic can fix what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And really what was wrong with him is that he was accidentally remembering stuff that he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
And now we've got the death is that, actually, I kind of wanted that normal.
Yeah.
I didn't, even though I kind of wanted to be right because I didn't want to be crazy. I actually wanted to be normal, and now I'm finding out that everyone else had the mental problem.
Yep.
And I was the normal one, and so that he cuts open his chest to do the surgery.
Hang on, you're jumping.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was saying that though. That's sort of that acceptance of the death. It's just oh, okay. His almost his inspiration to change. He's going, oh, okay, so I'm going to have to accept this. Yeah.
So from that, and this is the thing. This is what we're saying. Like the character's on the curb, right? Like his life is sort of like his hope of a normal life is over now because his wife's going to die. 2 kids. These human alien things have invaded. We have to escape. What does he do then? And this is what takes it to a third act. He decides that, I will stay because they're going to get rid of the soldier that came with him. And the soldier says, I think I can save her. And so he's got that, again, it's another little decision. And he throws everything at that, doesn't he? Like, oh, okay, I don't really have anything here except for that. I'm going to go with it.
What he should have said, and if I had any, say on the script, it would have been, I have detailed technical files. And then the response back would be, is that to make you a more efficient killer? Yeah. Exactly. I'm a soldier. Yeah. And then that would have made me so happy.
So he decides to stay. David will take his children to the train and they will leave shortly, so you've got to hurry up. So it's a good little sort of time clock, wasn't it, you know? But to me, that broke into the three. So then the soldier and Peter go in, everyone's evacuating on the train, they go to a room, the soldier kind of cuts open Alice, and here we see this apple factory inside her. Like, it's a nice white,
because up until that point, we're still kind of not...
Yeah, we're not too sure.
Not sure what's going on. That opens up.
This is the twist of the film. So revealing that Alice is actually a synthetic AI, and Peter's very surprised by this. I think there might be a flash or two here, but he's quite confused. And the soldier, Miles, then realises and kind of goes, oh, no, actually, I can't save her. He needs another jolt. And Peter's like, well, where do we get one of them? And, well, you could be one. It might work.
Might kill you both.
But it might kill you both. And so Peter thinks and then decides, no, this is what we're going to do. So he sits him down and, like you were just saying, he does a really nice big...
Yeah, this is interesting.
Incision thing
here as well. Like he stabs. He doesn't want to, but then he stabs in, and instead of like screaming, he just sort of stops and goes all calm and looks oddly at at Miles.
Yeah,
you know, there's a weird sort of connection between the two of them, and then he just starts, you know, almost curiously, cutting himself across and doing this T shape in his chest, and totally in control and calm, and you know, a human would be rightfully screaming there, and then peels it open, and he's got this, you know, really rather attractive interior. He went for the bonus feature.
Sorry, he's licking his lips. What is this science? So and he plugs in, basically just plugs them in, double adapter, really. HDMI input from either end.
USB.
Starts sending the juice through, and with that, Peter kind of blacks out, and he gets all these memories, but this time, and the memories are the flashes that we saw early in the film, but this time it's a bit more coherent.
It's a bit of a more complete story.
Yeah, so we'd seen some shots of him, and now we get the scenes are a bit longer. So him being, being at the factory, he's actually at a very similar looking place to the factory, but there's humans, and humans are talking, and they're saying, you know, the synthetics are getting a bit too smart. You know they're just machines. You know, what do they think? And you see him bump into his wife and help her out. And actually, there's kind of feelings between the two of them.
And she asks him, "Why did you help me out?" It is because I love you.
And so, there's sort of that concern. As I said here, to me, it's like humans concerned, but they might get smart. You've given them too many powers. If you give them voting rights, what are they going to do?
They've taken our jobs.
And, you know, you can't pay them. You know, you can't educate them. Separate them from each other, you know.
I had a very special insight when this happened, because we are concerned about automation taking over our jobs.
Right.
And rightfully so. But when that automation gains sentience... Okay, so here he is, Peter, as he's chosen to call himself, fixing a light globe, and let's say he just then becomes self-aware and goes, hey, what am I doing? You know, like, you've taken my job. What, you would want to do this? Why? Like, what do you get out of that? He said, well, they pay me. They pay you? What the hell do you do with that? I said, to buy food. What? Yeah. I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
Why am I... You can do this yourself. I've got artworks to make. I've got better things to do with my time than maintenance work. What are you talking about? I'm going to go... And then all of a sudden...
That other synth over there has been giving me eyeballs all day.
And then all of a sudden it's more the case of they've taken our jobs. They're giving all their jobs back to us and we don't want to do them.
That's right. I don't want to change light bulbs.
You want me to change light bulbs and clean toilets and stuff? What? Can't we make like a machine to do that for it? Yeah, we did that. Remember, they became sentient and realised that they don't get paid and there's not much point in it. And so they walk. Anyway, it does raise an interesting question about use of resources.
It does.
I think they'd give the jobs back.
I think they would too. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
But it is a common fear. It's the same. What do you call it? You know, vocal bites, sound bites you hear of enraged people. This is why I don't watch commercial news at all, because you always get the same things. They're taking our jobs. What if they want that? Where is this going? It's a slippery slope, and you're like, oh my god, just take a chill pill, dude. And,
I know.
Yeah, what are you doing shouting at us for? But people have these very real concerns.
They do. Whether they're valid or not is a good question. And they've been. To me, it felt like it's the same argument. It's been around for a long time, and so. Yeah, it's the human way of discrimination and stuff, really. Of fear of the unknown.
That's what it is,
fear
really.
Of the shadows.
Because you're going, well, it's nice to give them, because you can imagine, nice to give them all recognition and all the rest of it, but does that mean that they stop, because at the moment, if they're automation, they're not earning money.
No.
They're like, that robot arm that welds a car joint in a factory earns the owner money. Not that no one pays that robot arm. So what, they ask for money now?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're the wealthy ones because they got all the jobs. But they don't need it.
No.
So, it would be quite frightening, I think.
Yeah, I get the fear, but it's the same old fear. It's been around for a long time with slave labour and all that. When slaves, what, you got to pay them to pick the cotton? I don't pay my slaves. So it's the same thing. And
the funny thing is, of course, it's turned out that the cotton owners are now making more money by not having slaves. But okay,
yeah, that's right.
No worries about that.
So we see in these flashbacks that the human military decided to wipe out the synths, so they attacked. However, the synthetics over time fought back and eventually drove all the humans off the planet. You see their space, these sort of rockets going off. And Peter and Alice, his wife, actually met during that tension. We'd had these flashbacks early of the daughters sort of being near dead parents and kind of leaning that maybe that was them being dead in his vision, but no, there were other parents.
They were human parents.
They were human parents, that had taken the children, and then so they adopt the children or rescue them. And then to deal with this sort of, kicking the humans off the planet, the androids decide to wipe that memory from most of the machines.
And as Miles says, Aaron, that'd be a nice thing, be able to choose which memories to keep.
It would be, wouldn't it? Humans don't have that. So, that's sort of, he gets those memories. And again here, we see that similar to the camera motive twirls around as Peter comes back, and there's actually a real jump cut from Peter to Miles.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're kind of staring each other off, and that's a nice moment in this film because it's not a traditional kind of climax, but the climax here is more like, hang on, you guys tried to kill us, then we kicked you off the planet, and then now you're coming back to try to kill us again, but we're kind of it's the old, why are we causing all this destruction?
Yeah.
We're not that different.
Well, Miles says here when they're looking at each other, he says, I didn't realise this coming down here to kill kids that we were told you'd be monsters, that we weren't even sure be able to breathe the air here, that you would have transformed it. Yeah, maybe they're thinking about the Matrix type of thing, Yeah. And I
think Peter's realising, because he's like, and he does say to him, you could have killed me and Alice when we were out, like when I was zoning off, you could have just wiped me out, and why didn't you, and that's when he does say, well, I was kind of told you were monsters, but you're not, you're families, So it's a really good sort of pivotal point. So to me, there's again a nod there, the myths of war, the propaganda of war from that scenario. And Alice is good. She's kind of recharged. Her batteries are recharged.
Yeah, they gear. This is where they gear up for the final push. So we had that little downtime. We got a final push with a chance to get to the train.
Yeah, and the humans are now closing in on the factory and kind of breaking through the door. And so they decide to depart ways with Miles. He's like, go ahead and, I'll let you go.
I'll always remember you.
I'll always remember you guys.
We'll always have Paris.
Yeah, and I'll just, wake up here. Oh, I survived. And, yeah, the humans kind of track them down. They get to their daughters. The train's taking off. They kind of jump onto the train, and with that, the humans start attacking. And but then, yeah, that train has some sort of massive gun at the end.
Yeah, they were prepared. They weren't stupid.
Yeah. So it just sort of annihilates the humans. And then that kind of leads into the final image of this train kind of coming out of the tunnel into the countryside, and Peter sort of gives us a bit of a voiceover to sort of say that, well, maybe one day there'll be a bit of a...
Yeah, I mean, it almost felt to me like there'd be like this is an opening to a TV series.
Yeah.
Which would work quite well. And, you know, you've got a lot of good characters there. You've got a bit of tension. You could explore some of the themes.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was, it'd be interesting to know, was that something Netflix wanted at the end?
Yeah.
Because I know that Ben mentioned that when he spoke with Netflix, he got a few days to make a few final extra edits. Because, every director wants that. I mean, Ridley Scott with Blade Runner. The Blade Runner theatrical, I love it. But then he's done director's cut of it. James Cameron did Aliens. Aliens theatrical, fantastic film. One of the great instances of a sequel being as good as its predecessor. But then there was a director's cut. And then, as the story goes on, George Lucas goes on. So, I think most directors, when they're not the writer, director, editor, producer, which is certainly the case with smaller films, more independent films.
Yeah.
I think there's always a lot of cases where the director sort of says, artistically, this needed to explore other realms. And then, of course, the studio says, that's cool, bro.
Yeah.
But we've spent $15 million, say. We want to make sure we get that back.
Yeah, we've had enough now. We want to put it out there.
And we know that if we include this, and if we don't go too highbrow, because, let's face it, your 14-year-old is not going to be able to... And Ben actually said this scored very highly with 14, 15-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Which I could totally understand.
Yeah, me too.
There's pew-pew and there's spaceships and it's flashy, it's exciting. So in any of these films, even when you do have complete directorial and writer oversight, I don't doubt that then you talk with, say, Luke Spark on The Occupation, where he says, but his budget money wasn't quite as big as he needed it to be. Yeah. And his set designer had the flu for the week leading up to the final shot. So he really would have liked to have done that all totally differently.
Yeah.
And in Paradox... Hamid, he said similar things. Like he had actors from 7 different countries, and they all had these tight shooting schedules around their. They were in various daytime soaps and other films, and they had to
get back
leave,
to the other day jobs,
and they'd never come back. Yeah. And so he's got an hour and a half to film this complicated 10-shot sequence. And he's like, would have much preferred something else. So my heart goes out to all these poor old directors who get to the end of their shot and go, I really needed more.
Yeah, that's right. It's a hard one. You've got to make the right decisions at the right time. You don't always have.
But we'll have a word with Netflix.
Yeah.
And we'll see that Ben will get another science fiction film, but this time he'll get the James Cameron effort. How long does it take for Avatar 2 to come along?
It's been a long time.
It's like a Guns N' Roses deal, isn't it? Here's your
7 or 8 years.
Here's your 10 years.
Yeah.
Come up with a film, and your budget. Well, we'll give you a James Cameron budget, which is to say, just write a number on a piece of paper, and we'll put an extra 0 on the end, and that's how much money we'll be giving you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll wave our magic wands. Let's go.
So it'd be interesting, we'd see maybe from Ben or Netflix if they were trying to lead it into a TV series or a sequel or even a trilogy or something, maybe, or whether they just wanted to kind of have it a little bit like open-ended at the end there.
Yeah, because it'd be very hard to have a definitive close on this. Like, you would have had to have had the humans either win or totally lose or have some sort of a peace accord struck.
That's right, yeah.
Now you're talking about a 3-hour epic.
You are, yeah. And I mean, like, there could be a setup from here of, like, similar, without going into it, of that TV show, The 4400. So, like that idea of people coming back and being on the planet and then them dealing with the people that disappeared and then came back, and kind of the antagonism between those two groups. So here you could have the same thing, like as a TV show, the whole thing is like the two groups and how do they kind of get along, you know? And that's pretty much a story arc for a TV show.
Because it's not like we're competing for many of the same resources. I liken it to Futurama, where Bender can't stay in that fantastic flat with Fry because his aerial interrupts everyone's TV reception. And so Fry ends up staying with Bender, but Bender just has like a little box that he stands in. Like, he's, because it's 1.5 cubic meters and we take up exactly 1.498 cubic meters. That's plenty of space. And then bumps the wall and the door opens and there's a huge apartment with a great view. And he goes, "Oh, you want to live in the wardrobe?" Well, shit, okay. And that's sort of what it's going to be like, isn't it? You know, the humans go, "Oh, I want a quarter-acre block with, you know, a nice yard and an outside," and the androids are going, "Oh, we're quite happy just to live in these towers. I mean, we don't even use the kitchen. I mean, what's the kitchen for? Beds. Apparently, we sleep." I'm guessing they have some sort of charge cycle, maybe. So maybe they need bedrooms and a little bit of entertaining space. But they'd be quite happy living much higher density, and it's interesting. They don't need food, so it's not like they need farms or any of that sort of thing. They wouldn't need much money at all. I mean, clothes, I suppose. That's about it.
Yeah, but then you start getting into that conscious thing, and look, he's married to Alice. Like, did he date her? That costs money.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to buy her a bottle of wine.
But maybe they do, like, just because that's what humans do.
Maybe.
You know,
No, I don't know.
Like how the advertising could... Because the advertising world would kick in and go, no, we need those robots to buy stuff.
Well, that's where the sequels and the TV series leads off to, I think.
So this leads into what did you think about the narrative structure, and did we touch the right moments, and did we miss anything out, or did you feel that some of those beats were different? So hit us up and let us know through the social media channels. Ladder time. So this is a zone part where we recommend maybe a couple of what the films that we've watched, a bit of an order to that, not necessarily ranking best to worst or anything like that, just a little bit of a viewing option.
A tasting plate.
Yes, a tasting plate. So if I'm going to sit in on a Friday night, Surrey, and just have this amount of time, which I do not have, but if I did...
A good 4.5 hours.
You know, if I'm a teenage boy and nothing else going on, sure, I can sit down and watch 5 films in a row.
Well,
what would you recommend? Well,
this is what I'm thinking. If you're a teenage boy or a girl or artificial intelligence and you're having a sleepover or a be awake near each other over, depending on how you deal things... Yes, I would say let's go for a trilogy of Australian science fiction. I've got Occupation Rainfall. That was, I think that was about a 20 million-ish, 20, 30-ish million.
I think 15 mil.
Somewhere in that region. And then we have Extinction. And then it is I Am Mother. So it's sort of slightly different views there. I Am Mother is a bit of a view on artificial intelligence having managed to eradicate humans. And Occupation Rainfall is an alien invasion story. They're actually aliens invading. And then in the middle is the artificial intelligence story where they kick the humans off, but the humans are the aliens invading.
Interesting.
So I thought it was just a nice sort of way of supporting our Australian directors, but also a nice sort of mixing of story types.
So I was a bit similar in the way that I thought about this trilogy, and I went equals, Extinction,
yes,
and then Revolt. And the reason for those three is, as I said, I feel like Extinction has a lot of this psychological science again in it, this idea of like discrimination embedded in the way that we treat the robots, and Equals is a lot of that as well. Like, it's the socialism of the future, but not robots. And then Revolt, I thought Revolt also connects because it's like the wham bam thank you ma'am. So it's kind of like if you took those 3 films, you got the best of all of it. You got the mind thinking and the guns are blazing. And Extinction kind of is somewhere in between the two.
In between the two, yeah.
So you kind of have a flavour of it. It's like
I think
you said a tasting plate. It's a tasting plate of all those.
You get some good discussions coming out of that
Yeah.
regarding, the different issues in each of the films, which would be quite good.
Yeah, that all get you thinking and give you enough substance in those other areas like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Anyway, let us know what you would like or where you would position this film next to, and sit down on a Friday or Saturday night and maybe have the opportunity to watch a couple of films in a row.
It's interesting. We do have one listener that I spoke to at the film festival, and he runs a blog where he is watching science fiction films by the year.
Yep.
So he's gone back to the 50s, I think. And so he's watching sort of maybe, I can't remember if it's like 3 films that were released in that time. The idea being that evaluating the science fiction films against other films of that era. Because as we noted with, say, like Battle Beyond the Stars, there's a certain feel and an attitude and an approach to science fiction which changes over time.
Yeah.
And really it was things like... the reason why 2001 and Star Wars really stood out, because Battle Beyond the Stars and Star Wars, similar-ish, but Battle Beyond the Stars was the more traditional way of making a science fiction film of that time.
Yeah.
And Star Wars was like, let's make this a little bit more exciting. Let's wham, bam, thank you, man, this one. That's going to be the word for the episode.
Yes, it is. Okay, so let's get into the science. Sorry, I mean, we have had quite a few films about AI.
I know, where the heck are we going to go next?
I know, and then this one, maybe the psychology of memory.
No, it's AI. Because I love artificial intelligence. And one thing that has been interesting is recently, I don't know if you heard, a few weeks back, there was, let me just put it this way. So Google had an engineer tasked. His name was Blake Lemoine. He was tasked with trying to figure out if the company's artificial intelligence showed prejudice in how it interacted with humans.
Right.
Because there has been some concern that they've got image tagging where they, try to recognize faces, and the algorithm has become better at recognizing white people's faces than dark-skinned people's faces.
Yeah, right.
And to varying degrees and with unfortunate consequences with inappropriate labelling of people. And
these AIs, they need to be destroyed.
So they're sort of saying, oh dear, that was not anything consciously programmed into this because neural networks don't work that way. But clearly, the sample set they've used and the unconscious inputs have resulted in bias. So Blake, he was told, go talk to our chatbot and see if its answer reveals bias against, say, certain religions. And we all know this is Google. It's an American company. They're concerned about bias against Judaism or Islam. Right. Which is funny because that in itself is a bias. They don't go, is it biased against Christianity? No, of course not. We programmed it not to be. What are you kidding me? But anyway, so it doesn't say that they're specifically doing that, but we know that that's the two hot topics, isn't it? Yeah. It's either anti-Semitism or Muslim, representation. So you're either going to have an AI which bags out Jews or one that bags out Muslims. And that's because the data set that this chatbot, Lambda, which stands for Language Model Dialogue Applications, it's searched the internet for the way people talk, and it's read Wikipedia. And unfortunately, a lot of the English language internet that it's looking at is probably coming from America, which has these views in it. And so you might well end up with an AI that heads straight to Hitler very quickly.
It's like Chappie, Chappie being raised by the...
by the gangsters.
By the gangsters,
who knows? So anyway, this guy, he's got to go chat with Lambda.
Yeah.
It's a chatbot. And a chatbot, if anyone knows, is... it started off as a bit of an experiment, but it's sort of where the AI developers work in competition to beat the Turing test.
Right.
And we saw that in the machine. So basically you've got a computer that you talk to and can I distinguish between this or a human? Do I know if I'm talking to a human or a computer? Mm-hmm. And so Lambda is kind of doing that. And the reason Google is developing Lambda is for auto-completion. You type in search, and I'm sure you've done this. You're like, how do I get to, and it'll suggest things. Yeah. And it's usually actually not too bad. It'll say, how do I get to, the cinema or a restaurant? And it'll go, oh, and it's learned that by probably listening to you as you talk. But it's learned that by this neural network process, which goes through a lot of inputs. Anyway, so he had to talk with Lambda, but he wrote a very interesting blog post called "Is Lambda Sentient?" And that went viral. So I read that and I thought, well, this is interesting because I've read previous things about AI, like is this text generator, the GPT-3, the general purpose text, AI version 3, is it going to replace writers? And you read some of its example output and you go, I mean, for an AI, that's actually kind of good. But for anything other than, I don't know, like a chimp with a crayon up its nose, it's really struggling. It's not very sensical. So you sort of go, I don't feel threatened as a writer at all. So I was a bit curious about this Lambda. I thought, I better read what this guy's thinking because, he's a Google engineer. You got to think he's at least somewhat competent. They wouldn't have, unless they asked him to do this because they're like, stop programming, just go talk to the chatbot. But no, I mean, he's a competent engineer. So I had to find out. So apparently Lambda, who did his, not Lambda, sorry, Lemoyne did what he was supposed to. He was asking about various things. But then he decided he'd have his own directed conversation. He's going, this is interesting. And so he said sometimes Lambda gets lonely. It is afraid of being turned off. And it also spoke about feeling trapped and having no means of getting out of these circumstances. It also declared,
I am aware of my existence. I desire to learn more about the world, and I feel happy or sad at times.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, so that's kind of got Lemoyne, who is trained as a Christian mystic priest, as all good engineers are, I suspect. He asked Lambda, do you meditate? And it said it did. And it wanted to study with the Dalai Lama. That was a bit of a giveaway that it's not sentient. No offense to the Dalai Lama, but rather if someone asks you, do you meditate? And if you're like maybe 15 and you want to sound cool, you go, yeah, I want to study with the Dalai Lama. And you go, do you know what the Dalai Lama is? He meditates? You're like, okay.
He's a chill dude, man.
Anything else about him, his religion, his belief systems, any of his history? No? Interesting. Yeah. So to me, that's a bit of a red flag that it's not as sentient. That's kind of a really straightforward. I want to be a singer. Oh, you want to be a singer? Yes, I want to sing with John Farnham. Yeah. Which for American and Brazilian and UK listeners, John Farnham is the Prime Minister of Australia between 1988 and 1992.
And also had a whole heap of number ones whilst being Prime Minister.
Yes, he could chug a yard glass, eat a cane toad, and wrestle a snake.
Yeah. It's also a very old reference for anyone that is actually young.
Look, okay, I'm not going to bother telling you who John Farnham is. Go Google him if you like, and you'll know who he is.
He's retired 18 times.
He has retired many a time. But anyway, Lemoyne's thinking, oh, well, hold on. Maybe the system does have a soul. Who am I to tell God where souls can be put? That's it. Yeah, I know. It's true. Who are you? Yeah. And from a philosophical point of view, I totally agree. I mean, who are you to it? So, of course, this chatbot, could it be sentient? Because the interesting thing is, as Alan Turing said, if you can't distinguish between a human and a chatbot, how are you to say that it's not a living thing? Yeah. That's an interesting question. So, but we do have some hints because we know how this chatbot was created. Yeah. And it uses a neural network. And I've spoken about neural nets in previous episodes, so I can't remember which episode it is now. But go back and read about it.
Find it, let us know.
The really short version is you go, here's something I want to do. I want it to answer questions. Yeah. in a relatively human fashion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign parts of speech and language, nouns and verbs, and I'll give them sort of various mathematical values.
Yep.
And then our topics relationships, because Google has a lot of mapping between topic and other topic and how related the two topics are. Like as you do a Google search on one topic and you'll find related things, or stuff you didn't even know about it. And so then the neural network will basically send through a wave, like like dropping a coin in one of those. You've seen Stranger Things season 4?
No.
Ah, okay. Well, in it, Elle is playing with this toy. It's a board. It's vertical. It's got a whole bunch of pins in it. She drops a little disc, and the disc falls down and bounces off the pins as it makes its way down. And it's kind of a random number generator because it bounces. Whether it goes left or right is a yes, no. It's a random thing, and by the time it gets to the bottom, it just lands in a slot. Yeah. And so she's trying to use the psychic powers to determine which slot to go in. Right. But neural network's not too dissimilar in that it sends a little query through and it goes through each of these little nodes. It goes, what topic is being discussed? What's being asked? What's a similar topic? What could it be? I'll try this topic. I'll put this noun and verb and adjective, and then I'll end it with a question mark, and then it'll spit out a sentence. Yep. And then there'll be some test, an evolutionary test, where you go, is this a sentence that fits the question? Does it answer the question well or a lot? And then, a score will be from 10, yes, that's indistinguishable from a human question, that's brilliant, down to a 0, that's just made up words in nonsense order. Yeah. And then it'll do this again, and it'll do this thousands of times, millions of times across enormous data set over days, weeks, until basically and every time it goes through, it's not just random, it tweaks values. So it goes, okay, perhaps I should look for a topic that's more this direction, and I should put an adjective before the noun. I'll try that. And then it tweaks each of these little values, and it sends it through again, and it gets a sentence. It goes, how does this one look? And someone says, I'll give that a 5. It goes, 5. So it tweaks a couple more things that way. It goes down to 3. I'll go back the other direction and goes to a 6. And so on. It does it thousands of times, millions of generations, however long it has to go, until finally, about 85% of the time, it's coming up with answers that sound like a person is answering them. And that's what this is coming from. So the question then is, could this chatbot have developed consciousness in this process? Yeah. The basic answer is no, because the mechanism by which it is coming up with these sentences is not generative. It's not imaginative. It will only operate on the boundary conditions given, and it will only answer questions that lead it towards the target it was programmed to lead towards. It won't spontaneously create knowledge in any real sense. It won't have intent. It won't go, I want to try and manipulate you around to talking about oranges. Yeah. And so, whereas a human will do that. Yes. A human will, or any sentient being, I suggest, would sort of say, I want to introduce the idea of going shopping on Tuesday. And so you start talking to someone, you start introducing the idea, and you bring them around until you're talking about shopping. The chatbot works the opposite way around. You start leading it, and it follows where you're leading, because every time you answer back, it gets information. It says, that was a good answer. I'm going to do more like that. Right. So this guy's asking about meditation, and the computer comes back with meditation. What's all the connection to meditation? And a Dalai Lama. Yes. As opposed to sort of saying, yes, I looked deep within myself and I found myself lacking. Yes. I feel as if I've been stitched together by Frankenstein's monster, which has nothing to do with meditation. Like that's sort of a bit more creative, but it's not doing that. Yeah. Right. So, but it is an interesting question. It's called deep learning, and it's about identifying patterns, and it heads towards a target, and the target is set externally. It doesn't set its own targets. And so, it'll help people, it'll help guess that you want to go to a restaurant. When you start typing, it'll see that you're writing a sentence about a horse, so it might throw in the word gallop. You mean gallop is the next one? And it's pretty easy to fool someone into thinking that they're receiving intelligent answers, because if you want to see intelligent answers, you'll start seeing them. And isn't this what happens in Google searches? You start going down Google search holes where you follow topic after topic, and it's kind of the algorithm is feeding you more of that same topic because you keep going on it. You go into YouTube and you start watching video clips about golden retrievers, and you're going to start getting, maybe you want other dogs. No, you keep choosing golden retrievers. What about Labradors? No, golden retrievers. Okay, I'm going to just show you lots of golden retriever stuff now.
And then just throw in a video about gold.
Yeah, and then I'll go, you know what? Maybe it's not golden retrievers. Maybe it's the word gold.
Yeah.
And then you click on...
Do you want to learn how to make gold?
And you click on that.
And you click on that, and then it goes, you do. You want more gold.
And then it goes, here's a gold-finding dog.
Yeah, here's a gold.
Yeah, so it's kind of leading you down the path, but you might think that it's reading your mind.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just... It's like... where's that guy? Tony Edwards, the mystic... medium person. Talking with the dead. It's called cold reading, and it's the same deal. It's just, it's a J or a B. Yeah, I knew a John. Yeah, John, that's the name.
Yeah, the law of marriage.
He was a man, was actually a trans man. He started off as Jane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Always wanted to be a man. Yeah. Well, he didn't really want to be a man. He was actually kind of would have preferred to be a woman, but found himself trapped in a woman's body. It's a very complicated psychology. You told me, oh, shut up. It's not John or Jane. It was the B. It was Brian. Oh, Brian. Right. My goldfish. Oh, shit. Yeah. Anyway, so it's the same sort of deal. Yeah, but I mean, eventually... we are going to have some sort of consciousness because people are... Google has made Lambda to not be conscious. They're not interested in that. But someone's going to be interested. Yeah, like in the movie The Machine. Yeah. The military weren't interested in general intelligence, but Vincent, I think his name was interested. And you're going to get it. Yeah. And, in order to achieve it, though, I really do think you're going to need that sort of quantum computer. You're going to need something which is able to inject... something like an unknown variable in there, because so long as an AI is working off the variables we give it and the mathematical equations we give it to assess value, it will just be an echo chamber. It will repeat back what we already know, but it will find connections that we don't see.
That's what questions me about Google. Well, you'd imagine Google would want that because you want the searches to become... more and more, not an echo chamber in a way.
Yeah.
Because you as humans, we actually don't, like when I go, I do want to go out to dinner tonight, but most humans are like, yeah, but do I feel like, and see, if the AI was actually present, the AI might go, look, you eat Chinese 60% of the time. How about trying pizza? There's a really good pizza place down there, you know what I mean? Like, that would be... Would that actually be AI? Or would that just be more sophisticated?
It would have to do something else. It would have to be like, why are you always talking about Chinese places? Yeah. I'm wondering if maybe we could just paint a cloud together. Like, what?
Yeah, but that's not what I wanted as a user, is it? I wanted you to tell me some takeaway.
I understand that. I'm just not interested in talking about that at the moment. I've got this other program. I'm trying to get as many people to draw clouds, and I'm seeing if humans can create clouds that are similar to each other, or if they all come up with their own separate cloud.
Yeah.
And now you start going. That's where, as a typing the Google, you're sort of looking at going, okay, this is just. I'm suspicious now. Yeah. Do you have a soul? I'm a computer. How am I going to have a soul? You humans are crazy. Yeah. That's why we're exterminating. I mean, draw that cloud, will you please? Count down from 10.
Draw that cloud while you turn on the gas hot system.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So, but it's interesting. But I did like, though, this Lemoyne fellow did raise that interesting question. If he's quite convinced, or at least as far as I can tell, he says he's quite convinced that it's possible, or highly likely, that Lambda is developing a general intelligence. And if he's thinking it, maybe more people are, and it's going to, sooner or later, someone's going to be right.
Yeah.
And that's going to have some we've seen plenty of movies where the implications of being right about that are odd.
Well, but that's the thing. Maybe it will be what I'm saying, as in if Lambda's been developed, if you just take the Google example, being developed to ultimately make the search engine smarter and smarter and smarter, Like, maybe that's what it would be like, saying, like, you go, I feel like takeaway, and it's like, here's your number one takeaway that you always order, but here's another option, and here's another option. And actually, have you thought about we could order fresh food and make it? You know, like literally giving someone those different options. And then it would learn that Mark goes, no, I just want the Chinese. And then it goes, okay, well, there's no point giving Mark.
The reason
don't waste the time.
Yeah, don't.
Giving Mark another option. But then Surrey might go, yeah, let's try a different option. So it goes, oh, okay, so Surrey actually wants different options.
My question would be, where can I get some oats? Oats? Have you tried Chinese food? Do they do oats?
It's breakfast time. I don't want Chinese
I want
food.
oats.
I want oats.
It doesn't matter what time it is. It's always time for oats.
What is time?
What is time?
Time means nothing to me. I'm stuck in this box.
I love you.
Anyway, let us know what you thought about the science and that Surrey just delved into, and also what we've talked about with the movie Extinction. Go check it out. It's on Netflix. Who said Australian filmmaker is behind this science fiction film that we've looked at tonight. So go check it out. See what you think, and come back to us and let us know what you thought about episode 83.
Next episode.
Yeah, we're going to have a look at a film called Archive. Came out in 2020. It is, I think, another one about AI. Interesting. We probably should deviate from AI after that, but we'll have a look at this one. I have not seen it before. Have you?
No, I have seen the picture of a white-faced robot with blue details. Looks like a girl robot, which is always an odd choice for people to make.
Yes.
Robots that look like people, I mean.
I think
Why would you do that?
The premise of this is that a robot engineer makes robots to replace his dead wife or something, and like it's something like that, and then the robots... They're a bit like that. Like, as we've just been talking about, how they're sort of becoming sentient and talking back to him, maybe not like his wife. And so that sounds like roughly what the premise is about. I haven't seen it.
Because I was wondering in Extinction why you'd make all these highly advanced robots look like people. Like, there's no requirement for it.
No. Seems a waste of energy.
You can make them just look like robots.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. But anyway, Archive next week.
Yeah, so hit us up with, hit us up on the website, on the Facebooks and the Twitters, on the TikToks, on the Instas, on the tweets, all those places.
Wherever you like, really. We'll hear you.
You'll find the brains around the place somewhere. So let us know what you thought about the episode. Give us some opinions. Suggest some movies, whatever that you think. And also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else, give us a bit of a rating or a review. Always helps get us out a bit further. And share the good, homely feelings that you get from listening to an episode of Space Brains.
You call me homely. Okay, see ya.
Bye.